Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. She stormed onto his land in a red pantsuit, slapped him across the face, and thought she'd won. What she didn't know, the farmer she just assaulted was the county sheriff, and he had the whole thing on camera. In rural Montana, the truth has deep roots. Sunday afternoons on the farm were sacred, not in the religious sense, but in the kind of way that makes your bones settle and your lungs remember what air is supposed to taste like. The sun was riding high above the Montana fields, a slow, roasting kind of heat, and I was elbow deep in engine grease, halfway through cleaning the carburetor on my old red tractor. My dog Gus, a lazy mix of lab and cattle mutt, lounged in the shade, twitching his ears at flies he couldn't be bothered to chase. 40 acres of golden corn rows, apple trees near the east fence line, and a clean stretch of gravel leading up from the county road. That was my domain, my little empire. The land had been in my family since Eisenhower, and while I wore a badge during the week, it was this place that kept my heart beating right. Then came the engine hum. Not a truck, not a local rig. I know the sound of every rancher's diesel within 5 miles. This was something sleeker, angrier. I wiped my hands with a rag and stood up as a glossy black BMW X5 came barreling down my gravel path, kicking up dust like it owned the place. Not slowing, not hesitating. I narrowed my eyes as it came to a halt 20 feet from me, right between 2 rows of tomatoes and way too close to my irrigation valves. The engine shut off with a smug purr, and then the door flew open. Out stepped Trouble in a red pantsuit. Blonde, middle-aged, perfectly manicured fingers, holding a phone in one hand and a cigarette in the other, like she was born with both. She didn't look around, didn't wave, didn't say hello. She marched toward me like I was the parking valet at some fancy resort. "You," she barked. "This spot has shade. I'm parking here for now. My guests can't tolerate the heat." I blinked, not out of confusion. I just needed to reset my brain. I've seen meth heads strip naked and try to ride lawnmowers into gas stations, and this was somehow more surreal. "Ma'am," I said calmly, "you're on private property. There's no public parking here. You need to turn around and leave." She let out the kind of exhale that rich women do when the spa water's the wrong temperature. Then she took a long drag off her cigarette and gave me the once-over like I was dog shit stuck to her Jimmy Choos. "I live in Fox Hill View," she said with the kind of tone that made it sound like royalty. "I'm your neighbor. I am a woman. And I'm tired of men like you acting like you own everything." I didn't move, not a twitch. I just stood there, boots planted in the dirt, watching her unravel her entitlement in real time. Then, without warning, she stepped forward, phone raised like she was filming, and, smack, slapped me across the face. Let me tell you something. I've been punched by drunks, wrestled with bikers, hopped up on fentanyl, and tackled in backyards by dudes twice my size. But I don't think anything's ever stunned me quite like that moment. Not because it hurt. It didn't. But because it was so damn stupid. "That's for being rude," she sneered, phone still recording. "And now you're going to have real problems." She turned around and strutted back to her SUV like she'd just delivered a line from a soap opera. The tires crunched back toward the road, her tailpipe kicking up dust as if to punctuate her exit. I didn't yell, I didn't chase, I didn't even rub my cheek. I just turned slowly toward the house, walked up the porch steps and into my kitchen. Gus followed behind me like he knew something interesting was about to happen. Inside, I sat down at my desk, opened the secure cabinet, and pulled up the farm's security system. I'd installed it myself. 4 4K motion-activated cameras with audio, all synced to cloud storage and mirrored on my local hard drive. I queued up the last 30 minutes, found the footage. There she was in HD, all fire and fury, and hit export. The audio was crystal clear. Every word, every threat, every slap. Then I picked up my phone and dialed the station. "Dispatch," came the familiar voice of Deputy Clara on the other end. "This is Sheriff Brayson," I said. "I need you to start paperwork for a warrant. Assault on a peace officer. Full evidence ready." Clara whistled low. "Didn't expect that call today." "Neither did I said, watching the video clip finish rendering on the screen. "And Clara, tell Patrol Unit 2 to keep an eye out for a black BMW X5 heading west on County Route 17. Plate ends in 2NV. "Roger that, Sheriff." I leaned back in my chair and cracked my neck. She thought I was just some farmer in overalls. Well, surprise. The thing about rural Montana is, even when people think they're out in the middle of nowhere, they forget we have eyes everywhere. It doesn't take long to spot a luxury SUV driving like it owns the back roads, especially not a shiny black BMW weaving through dusty lanes like it's on a city block. Clara called back 17 minutes after my initial report. Unit 2's got visual, Sheriff. Black X5, confirmed plate match. She's doing about 40 in a 30 zone on County 17, heading back toward Fox Hill View. Bring her in, I said, already grabbing my keys. I changed out of my work shirt, but left the boots on. I wasn't dressing for court, just for the truth. When I stepped outside, the sun was still scorching, but the air had changed. Still quiet, but with that taut silence before a storm breaks. Fox Hill View was a new kind of cancer growing next to our farmland. Glass houses, infinity pools, zero respect. Folks like her didn't wave at neighbors. They took photos of tractors for their Facebook pages and called code enforcement because a barn looked scary. I pulled up just as Unit 2 had her stopped near the turnoff. The patrol car had its lights going, and the deputy, young Eric, nervous but solid, was speaking to her through the driver's side window. She was flailing her hands, half shouting, half dramatically sighing into her phone. When I stepped out of my cruiser and walked toward them, her whole posture changed. She turned, eyes squinting under designer sunglasses. "You've got to be kidding me," she scoffed. "You again? What is this, some hillbilly revenge stunt?" I didn't answer her. I walked to Eric first, exchanged a nod. "Sheriff Brayson," he said, trying to keep a straight face. "Driver is confirmed, refusing to exit the vehicle, claims it's all a misunderstanding." "Of course it is," I muttered, then turned to her window. "Step out of the vehicle, ma'am." "I will do no such thing," she snapped, tapping furiously at her screen. "I am currently on the phone with my attorney. This is unlawful detainment. And frankly, I don't take orders from landscapers playing cop." I showed her the badge. "Let it sit there for a second. Watch the light catch it." Her mouth twitched. "My name is Sheriff Cody Brayson, elected official of Harper County. You assaulted a sworn peace officer. You entered private property. You ignored posted signs. And yes, we have all of that on camera." She laughed. Not out of humor, out of fear masked as bravado. "You're serious? Because I slapped you for being rude? You can't be serious." "I'm always serious about the law, ma'am. Step out of the vehicle. You're under arrest." That was the moment it clicked. Her eyes widened. Her jaw dropped slightly. The color drained just enough to show the real panic underneath all that Target brand foundation. You're the sheriff?" "Correct." "You didn't say anything. You were in a t-shirt." "Didn't realize I needed a neon sign." Eric opened the passenger door. She didn't resist. Not much. A few token flails, some yelling about lawsuits, and one deeply embarrassing moment when she shouted, "This is abuse of power. I know people in D.C." Eric cuffed her and gently guided her into the back of the cruiser. "I have rights. I'm calling CNN. You're all going to regret this." "You can call whoever you want," I said calmly, "but I suggest you call a good lawyer." Back at the station, she kept up the show, flipping her hair, acting like she was the victim of some frontier vigilante attack, took selfies in the holding room like it was a spa day, smiled at the camera like she was on a reality show. "Smile now," I told her, sliding over a copy of the footage on a labeled USB. "It's all in here. Audio, video, time-stamped, high definition." She took it like I'd handed her a scorpion. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am. And so is the judge who's going to sign off on this." We booked her for misdemeanor battery on a peace officer and trespassing. No cuffs when she left. Montana's system doesn't always hold for slap-level assault, but she was booked, fingerprinted, and on record. That mattered. She paid bail in cash. Rich people always carry enough to buy their way out of minor trouble. But the problem for her was, this wasn't over, not even close. She stomped out of the station in silence, but not before turning and giving me one last glare. "This isn't the end," she said. "I know," I replied, and I meant it. By Monday morning, the internet was on fire. It started slow, a handful of shares on Nextdoor, then a Facebook post titled "Local Woman Assaulted by Angry Farmer Over Parking Dispute" from someone named KR Community Advocate. That angry farmer was, of course, me, the woman, Karen R. Reeves. And the post? A carefully edited video clip showing me standing with arms crossed while she narrated her version of events. She'd chopped it masterfully. It began with her stepping out of the car, claiming she was just asking for directions. Then came a quick, silent shot of me approaching, followed by her stumbling backward dramatically, right after cutting the footage just before she slapped me. The slap never made it in. What did make it in? A shaky voiceover of her saying, "I felt threatened by this man. He looked at me like he wanted to hurt me." The post ended with a black and white freeze frame of my face, caught mid-blink, grim and shadowed, with the words, "Should this man be in charge of your safety?" By noon, it had 3,000 shares. The comment section was a toxic swamp, typical abuse of power. "She's a woman, he's a cop. Do the math. This is why women feel unsafe in rural communities." And, my favorite, "You can see the threat in his eyes. Just look at the energy. People don't need facts when they have feelings." And this was a curated outrage buffet, served hot with hashtags. Her Sir Fox Hill Justice. Ban the badge. Just shady sheriff. I sat in my office at the station, watching it unfold like a man who just stepped into a wildfire with a bucket of lemonade. My deputy Clara leaned against the doorway, holding a coffee in one hand and a look that said, "Holy hell," in the other. "She cut the footage," I said, more to myself than to her. "Sliced the truth right out of it." "She also bought Facebook ads," Clara added, "targeting every county within 50 miles. I checked the metadata. She's playing big." I nodded slowly. "She's not just angry. She's strategic." "And loud," Clara said. "She called the mayor's office this morning, accused you of misconduct, claimed you threatened her off camera, said she's filing a formal complaint against the department." "Did she now?" Clara raised her eyebrows. "Mayor's already getting calls. Civil rights group in Helena wants a statement." I leaned back in my chair and sighed. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I'd worn the badge long enough to know that sometimes the truth had to run a marathon while lies rode first class, but that didn't mean I was letting this go unanswered. "I want the full footage backed up to multiple locations. Cloud, hard drive, USB, hell, put it on a CD and bury it under the barn if you have to." "You thinking lawsuit?" "No," I said. "I'm thinking war." By that afternoon, I'd already received 3 voicemails from reporters, 1 from the Billings Post, 2 from local affiliate stations. The phrasing was always polite, but the subtext was poison. "Would you like to comment on the allegations circulating about your conduct during the recent citizen encounter?" Citizen encounter. That's what they call it now, when someone trespasses, slaps you in the face, and screams class war at you. I didn't answer. Not yet. Karen, meanwhile, was thriving. Her personal Instagram account, now public and verified, was suddenly full of selfies taken from the back seat of the patrol car, captioned things like, "They tried to silence me. They failed." In one post, she stood in front of her gated community entrance, holding a protest sign that said, "In Comic Sans, power doesn't make you right." She even gave an interview to some podcast called Suburban Voices. I listened 5 minutes. That was enough. "I just wanted shade for my guests," she said tearfully. "I never imagined it would become violent. The sheriff, he stared at me like I wasn't human. No mention of the slap. No mention of walking onto private land. No mention of how she spat at the ground as she left the station. The real kicker came when she announced she was launching a petition to recall Sheriff Cody Brayson for abuse of authority. 500 signatures overnight. Half of them probably from yoga moms who never stepped foot in Harper County. Still, perception mattered. By evening, I'd made a decision. I gathered my team in the briefing room. Clara, Eric, even grumpy old Donnie from Dispatch. I laid it out simple. She thinks this badge is a prop. She thinks the internet is more powerful than facts. So we're going to show her how dangerous the truth can be. When it's on record. Everyone nodded. No one spoke. Then I picked up my phone, opened my calendar, and called the county courthouse. "Yeah, this is Sheriff Brayson. I need to schedule a press conference tomorrow morning. Public. Full release of footage and supporting documentation." "And Sheriff?" the clerk asked. "Yes? You sure you want to go public with all that?" I looked out of the window at the fading Montana sky. Quiet. Steady. Like justice should be. "I'm damn sure. The courthouse in Harper County isn't exactly built for spectacle. It's a 2-story stone block with a faded state flag, a handful of squirrels, and a parking lot that gets more use during county fairs than judicial proceedings. But on Tuesday morning, it looked like the damn Capitol building. News vans from Billings, Helena, even one from Spokane had squeezed into every corner of the gravel lot. Reporters milled around with cameras, clipboards, and too much hair product for Montana weather. Curious locals stood by the entrance. Farmers, teachers, a few off-duty deputies, whispering, pointing, waiting. Inside the community room, I stood behind a plain wooden podium. No flags, no backdrops, just a mounted projector and the weight of one truth that had been twisted in 1,000 directions online. Clara stood off to the side, running the AV system. Eric was by the door, keeping the press hounds from swarming early. I adjusted the mic, glanced once at my notes, then looked up and began. My name is Sheriff Cody Brayson. I've served this county for 3 terms. I don't wear this badge for attention. I wear it because I believe in protecting people. All people. Even the ones who think the law doesn't apply to them. A few reporters jotted that down like it was the Gettysburg Address. On Sunday afternoon, a woman named Karen Reeves entered private property, ignored posted signage, and when I asked her to leave, she struck me. Then she recorded a partial video, edited it, and spread it online to manipulate public perception. I am here today to release the full, unedited footage. Clara clicked play. The room went silent as the footage played on the wall. The wide-angle lens showed her SUV pulling onto my farm road, showed her stepping out, barking demands, showed the signs, showed me calmly asking her to leave, showed the slap, the phone, the threat. All of it. You could hear a pin drop when it ended. Then Clara pulled up a second video, footage from the backfield, a second angle with clearer audio, just in case anyone tried to say it was doctored. This is the truth, I said simply. Unedited, unfiltered, not for likes, not for outrage, just facts. Hands shot up, questions fired. Sheriff, did you know she was filming you? Yes. Why didn't you stop her? Because I don't stop people from embarrassing themselves. Laughter from the back of the room, brief, but real. Are you pressing charges? I already did. Battery on a peace officer, trespassing, and after what we've uncovered this morning, possibly more. I looked at Clara, who nodded. Thanks to tips from multiple sources, we've learned that Ms. Reeves has a history of similar behavior. In the last 5 years, she's been involved in at least 4 documented incidents of public aggression. I gestured, and Clara pulled up PDF documents. 1 police report from Boise for assaulting a delivery driver, 1 restraining order from a former HOA board member, and 2 complaints from former employees of a daycare she briefly owned in Arizona. She's not new to this. She's just never been held accountable. The room buzzed. Some of the reporters looked nervous, as if realizing they might have backed the wrong horse. And then came the kicker. We've also confirmed that the video spread online was edited to remove key footage, including the assault. We've verified the metadata. We have the original source. We are sharing the full file publicly and submitting it to state authorities in case of future civil action. More flashbulbs. More whispers. And then I finished. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't care how many followers someone has, or how good they are at pretending to be a victim on camera. The law doesn't bend for ego, and justice doesn't care about likes. With that, I stepped down. Outside, the press swarmed. I ignored them. Let the truth echo behind me like a closing door. Clara handed thumb drives to key outlets. Eric handed out printed copies of the incident report. By the time I got to my cruiser, the first headline had already dropped. Sheriff releases full video, Karen Reeves' version falls apart. Back at the station, Clara grinned. She's quiet on socials. Deleted a few posts already. Damage control, I said. But the rope's already around her own neck. She just hasn't felt the pull yet. What do you think she'll do next? She'll double down, I said without hesitation. People like her always do. And I was right. I was in the middle of my morning patrol briefing when the knock came. It wasn't a regular knock. It was the kind lawyers use. Slow, deliberate, smug as hell. When I opened the door to my office, there stood a guy who looked like he practiced smiling in mirrors. Slim. Shiny shoes. Expensive watch he made sure you saw. Carrying a thick manila envelope like it was a death sentence. Sheriff Brayson? He asked, as if unsure despite the nameplate on my desk. That's me. I'm here on behalf of Karen Reeves. You've been served. He handed me the envelope, gave me a nod too polite to be real, and walked out like a man who just dropped a grenade and wanted to be gone before the boom. I opened it slowly, then scanned the contents. Civil suit. Karen Reeves vs. Sheriff Cody Brayson. Allegations included abuse of power, targeted harassment, emotional distress, public endangerment, defamation. She was going for broke. Clara walked in and saw my face. "What's that?" "A lawsuit," I said. "Apparently I'm the one causing trauma now." She snorted. "What's next?" "You gave her a sunburn with your mind." The town was still talking about the footage, but now things were shifting again. Karen had hired a city attorney, Gavin Merritt, known more for personal injury commercials than constitutional law. Still, he was flashy, media savvy, and obviously hungry. He gave a press statement later that afternoon. "Ms. Reeves is the true victim here. Sheriff Brayson used his badge not to protect, but to punish. What began as a misunderstanding became a vendetta. He wore a damn suit 3 shades too tight and talked like he thought this was law and order. Worse, the press started eating it up. A few outlets, the same ones that had run my footage, now ran headlines like "Power Imbalance in Montana, Sheriff Sued by Suburban Mother." Others ran both sides stories, quoting Karen about her panic and mental anguish. People love drama, and she was playing the part again, only now she had a legal strategy. Discredit the sheriff, muddy the water, turn the narrative into he said, she said. I took the high road. No public statements, but that didn't mean I sat on my hands. First, I went on administrative leave, voluntarily. It was strategic. I didn't want any appearance of interference with an active civil case. And, honestly, I needed the time, because I knew something Karen didn't. This wasn't going to be a public opinion battle anymore. Now we were in my territory. Courtrooms, paperwork, procedures. And I didn't lose fights in my own house. Clara, now acting commander while I was out, worked with our legal counsel to prepare our full response. We compiled documents, timestamps, footage, everything again, airtight. Then we dug into Karen's past even deeper. That's when we found the thread. One of the attachments in her lawsuit, a supposed transcript of the interaction between her and me, was way off. It quoted me saying things I never said. Included timestamps that didn't match the video, claimed I used threatening language. That simply didn't exist. At first, I assumed it was just exaggeration, but then our IT tech, Nolan, took a closer look at a new leaked video her side submitted to local news. "Sheriff," he said, calling me into the tech room, "you might want to see this." He played the new clip. It looked like my original footage. Same camera angle, same lighting. But something was off. The audio track had been tampered with. Subtle, but real. Added breathing sounds. Overlaid words, spliced moments where I paused and inserted entirely new phrases. I ran a spectrogram, Nolan said. It's a bad edit. Whoever did this doesn't understand how forensic audio works. They tried to forge your voice. I stared at the screen, feeling that familiar cold focus settle in. This wasn't spin. This wasn't manipulation. This was evidence tampering, and it changed everything. This isn't civil anymore, I said. This just went federal. By the end of the day, we'd filed a report with the state attorney's office and flagged the doctored video as potential felony-level fraud. Falsifying evidence in an active investigation, especially when targeting law enforcement, that's prison time. Karen, of course, doubled down again. Posted a tearful Instagram video claiming her footage had been mysteriously corrupted by hackers and that she was scared for her life. She was unraveling, but in a way that made her more dangerous, not less. Because when people like her feel the noose tightening, they don't surrender, they lash out. Her lawyer tried to bury us in motions, delay tactics, demands for retractions, nuisance countersuits, but they all reeked of desperation. The final straw came when she filed a second claim, alleging that I had recruited locals to harass her. She submitted screenshots of angry Facebook comments as proof. One of them said, "Karen's gonna wish she stayed in California." It was from a guy named Todd who runs a goat farm and thinks Twitter is witchcraft. Still, the court had to consider it, which meant more paperwork, more resources, more time, but also more eyes. Now, state-level investigators were watching, and that meant Karen's bluff was about to be called. She thought she was fighting a man. She forgot she was fighting the law. The call from the state attorney's office came on a Wednesday morning, right before sunrise. I was feeding Gus and checking fence posts when my phone buzzed with a Helena area code. The voice on the other end was clean, clipped, all business. "Sheriff Brayson, this is Special Investigator Lynn Harrow, Department of Justice. We've reviewed your submitted report and the audio analysis. We're opening a federal inquiry into Karen Reeves for evidence tampering and obstruction of justice." That was it. One sentence. One rope pulled tight. I didn't whoop or smile or fist pump. I just looked out over my land and nodded once. The frost was burning off the fields. My fields. And somewhere out there, a woman in a gated mansion was still sipping tea and rehearsing victim monologues, not knowing her time was officially up. The feds moved faster than I expected. By Thursday, they had a search warrant approved and executed at Karen's property in Fox Hill View. 2 black SUVs rolled past that community's little white security gate, and nobody inside had the balls to stop them. They searched her home, her office, her car, her devices, and they found everything. The forensic report was shared with me a few days later, in detail that would make your skin crawl. Karen had not only tampered with the original footage, she'd used a shady freelance editor from out of state to alter timestamps, mask splices, and layer synthetic audio. Worse, they found a folder on her laptop labeled Potential Leverage. Inside, videos, PDFs, screenshots, emails, all sorted into neat little subfolders by people's names. HOA board members, neighbors, former employees, even a local school principal. Most of the files were manufactured or manipulated. Fake text exchanges, selectively cut videos, voice recordings that had clearly been pieced together to tell whatever story she needed. It wasn't just about me anymore. This was a pattern, and it went back years. One folder was labeled intra-harassment. The initials matched the name of a middle school teacher who'd been quietly fired last year over an alleged inappropriate comment during a parent-teacher meeting. I made a few calls. The teacher, Marcus Rowe, still lived in town. He'd never spoken about what happened, just packed up and took a night shift at the mill. When I told him what we'd found, the man broke down in my office, quietly, not loud, the way someone cries when they thought no one would ever believe them again. "She destroyed my life," he said, "and I never even raised my voice to her." He wasn't the only one. 4 other individuals were listed in the DOJ's summary as prior targets. One of them had moved counties to avoid HOA legal threats. Another had tried to sue but dropped the case after receiving anonymous threats. Threats we now had on record, traced to a burner phone in Karen's garage. It was all falling apart, spectacularly, publicly, and irreversibly. Fox Hill View, once a pristine little pocket of manicured lawns and HOA tyranny, suddenly turned on her. Residents who'd previously defended her online were now posting full-throated apologies. A protest even formed outside her gate. "Not in our name. This is not community values. We support Brayson." I watched it on the evening news while sitting in my kitchen, eating cold stew straight out of the pot. The anchor's tone had changed, now full of barely concealed disdain. Karen Reeves, once a vocal member of the Fox Hill View community, is now facing multiple federal charges, including obstruction of justice, falsifying evidence, and conspiracy to defame. Sources inside the investigation report that the digital evidence recovered from her home shows a pattern of abuse stretching back over 5 years. The punchline: Karen still hadn't shut up. That same night, she posted a video from her kitchen, hair in a messy bun, no makeup, trying for that raw honesty angle. "I am being targeted," she said, voice shaking. "Yes, I made mistakes, but I was scared. I was threatened by a man in power. I didn't know how else to protect myself." She cried. Right on cue. The comments were split. Some people, the chronically gullible, were still with her. But the rest? Delete this. Save it for court. Hope Prison has Wi-Fi. And then quietly, her account went dark. Within 48 hours, her bail was revoked. The judge cited ongoing digital manipulation and risk of further obstruction. She was picked up in the early morning hours by federal marshals. No warning this time, no staged selfies, just flashing lights and the long, silent ride toward the truth. Her house was sealed. Her lawyer refused further comment. HOA meetings turned into emergency damage control sessions. And me? I just kept walking my land, fixing my fences, watering my corn. Not because I didn't care, but because I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The trial started on a gray Monday morning, the kind that felt like the sky itself was holding its breath. Harper County Courthouse had never seen this much press. Not even during that time, a local councilman tried to expense a hot tub as community enrichment. The parking lot was packed. trucks with satellite dishes, reporters with notepads and hot mics, a protest group outside with signs reading things like "Justice for the Sheriff" and "Truth TikTok." Inside, it was standing room only. Karen sat at the defendant's table in a conservative beige suit, hair down, no makeup, trying to project every woman innocence. But her eyes gave it away, darting, desperate, overprocessed. Next to her sat Gavin Merritt, still clinging to whatever dignity he had left. Gone was his cocky grin from weeks ago. Now he looked like a man trying to talk his client out of detonating herself in front of a jury. I took the stand on day 2. My lawyer kept it clean. I recounted the events calmly. The trespassing, the slap, the threats. Then came the footage, raw, unedited. The jury watched in silence as Karen strutted onto my land, barked demands, and delivered the infamous slap. Then came the forensic evidence. Nolan testified about the manipulated video. Audio layers, mismatched spectrograms, voice mod software. The DOJ team backed it up, showing a clear timeline of her edits, her conversations with the freelance editor, and the creation of the evidence she submitted in her countersuit. Then they introduced the folder. "Your Honor," the prosecutor said, "we present Exhibit F. Digital files recovered from the defendant's personal laptop indicating a sustained pattern of evidence fabrication and defamation targeting multiple individuals." The defense objected. The judge overruled. They read aloud file names. Principal Blackmail Doc. Julia Ho Fake, quote, PETA Video Edit, Final V3. Some jurors visibly recoiled. And then, the burner phone texts. A forensic analyst showed screenshots of messages traced to the anonymous phone used to intimidate Marcus Rowe, one of the previous victims. "Back off, or I'll release the audio. You know what you said. Don't make this worse. Your reputation won't survive round 2. All traced to a number linked to a prepaid phone found in Karen's garage drawer between an old iPad and a box of spa coupons. By day 5, her defense had disintegrated into a chaotic mess of damage control. Merritt's final move was to claim mental distress and emotional instability caused Karen to behave irrationally, but not criminally. He said the words fragile state, panic, and emotional breakdown. So many times I thought we were in a psychiatric evaluation, not a courtroom. Then came the wild card. Karen demanded to testify. Her lawyer begged her not to. The judge warned her sternly, but she insisted. She walked to the witness stand like she was walking into a theater, hands folded, lower lip trembling like a B-movie actress from the 90s. "I never meant to hurt anyone," she said, tears brimming. I've been through so much. I was trying to protect myself. I didn't trust the system. I felt alone. But the prosecution was ready. They cross-examined her with surgical precision. "Did you trespass?" "I didn't see the sign. It was 4 feet tall, red letters. It was on camera." "Did you trespass?" Maybe. "Did you strike Sheriff Brayson? He made me feel unsafe." "Yes or no, Ms. Reeves?" "Yes." And then came the nail in the coffin. They played an unreleased voice memo recovered from her iCloud, a private recording she'd made days after the incident, clearly never meant to be heard in court. "He thinks he's smarter than me. That badge makes him brave. But I'll take it away. People don't care about facts. They care about stories. I'll give them one." The courtroom fell silent. Even her lawyer stopped taking notes. When court adjourned for the day, I passed her table on the way out. She didn't look up, not even when the cameras flashed. The show was over, but it wasn't done yet. That night, Karen made one last move. From county jail and where she was being held after violating bail again, she called a reporter, claimed she was being silenced, that the judge was in on it, that she had more tapes that would prove everything. The recording of that call was leaked within hours. "I'll go down, sure, but I'll take him with me. I'll burn the whole damn thing down if I have to." Her voice cracked, not from fear, from fury, from losing control. And that's when the court expedited final proceedings. Because once a defendant starts threatening to burn everything down, it's not just a trial anymore, it's containment. The sentencing hearing took less than 30 minutes. Karen sat motionless, eyes hollow, makeup gone, confidence erased. No designer suit this time, just a plain beige prison uniform and a stare like a cracked windshield, still holding together, but only just. The judge, a woman named Everett, sharp as winter air, didn't waste time on theatrics. Ms. Reeves, this court finds you guilty of the following charges: assault on a peace officer, trespassing, obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, filing false claims, and malicious defamation. The courtroom was silent, the kind of silence that holds judgment, respect, and a bit of awe. You used digital manipulation to attempt to destroy the career and life of a law enforcement officer. You targeted others in your community with the same tactics. You were not a victim. You were a manipulator. Karen didn't speak. She didn't cry. Maybe she was out of both. The judge continued, "For these crimes, the court sentences you to 9 months in federal prison, 3 years probation, and a mandatory psychiatric evaluation. You are to pay $25,000 in fines to the county and $40,000 in personal restitution to Sheriff Cody Brayson for reputational and emotional damages." Gasps echoed from the press row, and then came the final hammer. Additionally, as part of the civil resolution, Ms. Reeves must sell her residence in Fox Hill View and is barred from residing in Harper County for no less than 5 years. Boom. Done. I didn't smile, not in the room. I just looked forward and nodded once to the judge when she glanced my way. Outside, the press swarmed again. Microphones, questions, flashing lights. I gave a short statement, clear and firm. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, slow, but when it comes with the full weight of the truth. I thank this community for standing up when it mattered, and I hope this reminds others, if you weaponize lies, they can and will come back for you. That night, the town felt different. People waved more. Some stopped me at the diner to shake my hand. Others just nodded from across the parking lot. Even Gus got a free steak bone from the butcher. Fox Hill View, meanwhile, began pretending Karen never existed. Her house hit the market within 48 hours. The HOA posted a formal statement condemning her actions, and some overly ambitious realtor listed the place with the tagline, "Fresh start, motivated seller, sure." A few weeks later, I got a letter, no return address, but I knew the handwriting. "You think you won, but people like you always hide behind rules. I live outside them. I always have. This isn't the end." Signed only with a looping, sharp letter K. I tossed it in the wood stove without reading it again. Some snakes don't hiss. They whisper, but whispers don't scare me. That summer, I put up a small post next to the gravel road where she drove in that day. Just a simple wooden sign, burned in letters. Here stood a woman who thought she was above the law. The law stood taller. Didn't take long for people to start pulling over, snapping photos, smiling. One couple even brought their wedding photographer for a shoot beside it. Not exactly the tourist attraction I ever expected, but maybe a necessary one, because in this world of edits and algorithms, stories and spin, people sometimes forget. The truth doesn't need a filter, it just needs time. And time, well, out here on the farm, we've got plenty of it.